George Abraham.
Down is next, right?
Down is next.
Hello. So as Ed mentioned, I am the product manager for Indigo Studio, Internal 2, for prototyping, design review, and remote unmonitored usability testing, which is why prototyping is kind of near and dear to my heart. And the topic I chose was some of the challenges which I ran into as I was prototyping, especially in domains such as dynamic data. And I still want to do my scope of literacy, right? And that's something which I don't want to lose because that lets me be fast. So that's why I chose this topic. And I call it designing beautiful themes for effective prototyping. So let me get some basics out of the way. I don't have a very fancy definition for effective prototyping. As long as that involves two things. One is designing the experience you are proposing. And second, you're validating your users. If your prototyping process does not have these two pieces, it's not really a prototyping process. So the trick, however, is to do it as quickly as possible. Because the quicker you can do this, the quicker you can gain feedback, the more confident you can be, and you're reducing risk later in the process. Everybody knows this. But I don't know if your process is mature enough to design today and validate tomorrow. I think Brian mentioned something like that when he was talking. It's just really taking you more than a day to get the idea across. Something is up, right? And that's why I like design as an activity where people always design as pictures and things you can see, but design is really about trade-offs. And that's what you're doing day in and day out. The moment you put a pixel on page, you have actually reduced the degree of freedom. The next decision is anchored by the first decision made, right? So you need to be able to do that as quickly as possible. Validating with users, of course, people need some tooling to do that, or they have access to users, all of that we had. And it follows through on what Jim was talking about. I'm not saying that you don't need to do user research, because that's where I'm getting the what. Here I'm just talking about how, right? And the idea I'm going to propose is how do I let you reduce design parameters. So prototypes to me are really straight architects. And if you look at people's definitions of what prototypes should do, they say that depending on the audience, the prototype needs to have certain things. And I kind of broke down my audience into three groups. And these are the groups I usually work with. I have the business group, where I say, hey, George, you need a feature, you're going to sell tons of product, you need to have it, okay, that's the focus. I have my team with whom I have to collaborate day in and day out. I need to be able to communicate with them what I have in my head, so that they can actually look at it and say, George, that's too complicated. That's what it's way too long. I have a short solution for it. And I want to be able to encourage that conversation. The most important pipeline is the validate pipeline. The reason I presented these three is that this is actually the first one of paralysis. The paralysis happens is that, okay, what kind of program am I going to make? Which one am I going to do first? And my solution is I always design with the validation in mind. Because my theory, which is improved is what works for the user also works for my design team and for my business stakeholders. I really don't want business stakeholder meetings where I go into a plan to present, and presenting it as if the user is going to experience the prototype is an amazing way of keeping the whole presentation on time and with very few distractions. So that's the key idea. Design a prototype for validation and use that across the other groups. Now, this gets talked around a lot, and we feel very good about ourselves when we say designing a seamless experience. This is a little bit of a BS, because not that it's a seamless design, it's the experience feels seamless. It's a perception thing, right? The user, when they actually, interact with the prototype, it's an immersive thing which happens, and it happens in the mind of the user that it's seamless. I didn't design it. Because in reality, design is full of scenes, right? It's all scenes. And if you're an interaction designer, this is all of interaction designers, you are in the business of creating scenes, right? And these scenes should be in the shape of content, which guides people like what next to do. It could be an invisible thing that you don't control. It happens in the mind of the user. They read it, they comprehend it, they understand it, then they know what to do next. And of course, we have obvious buttons, we have progress, which should tell you the state of the application, and of course, we have confirmation. And I think we talked about it earlier in micro-interactions. And I think, as Tapper, he's a mature professional. He knows what he's talking about. But people who read the book, they just got lost in just one thing. They create the most beautiful product indicator. They create the most beautiful slide transition. They get lost in the details. So that's the good side of the book Micro-Interactions. It just elevated something which always existed. It gave so much importance. But if you look at all the tooling out there, it's really about living between two states of the UI. That's it. There's the whole user goal, user concept, writing it, creating the prototype. That stuff is not even being discussed. So as prototyping, when we are prototyping, we have another trade-off to tackle. And that's my major challenge. One, I want to provide a personalized experience for people using these prototypes. Right? Because when I give a personalized experience, I can actually tap into this whole notion that's spending this to be. Right? Everybody talks about it. However, that conversation always goes in the direction of high quality visual, superb typography, lovely images, iconography, color, branding, because users need to feel that it's real. That's not really true. Because for users to feel like this is a real app, I need them to immerse them in what they're doing. And the best way to immerse them, especially if they have a goal. If they have a goal in mind and ask them to do something which is meaningful to them, then I will still get feedback. It's not just about color and typography, because they're so busy doing the task. That's the best part. The second part is that we can't design for each and every other user, because we still want to aggregate the behavior pattern, right? Because we want to design a set of things which is common. Otherwise, everything is unique. So I want to be able to trade off a personalized experience, at the same time be able to see after 5 or 6 people do something, whether the pattern emerges, which kind of either proves the hypothesis, or basically feel like I need to rethink. Yeah, Matt, what is this measure? So I was trying to look for a picture which showed like a network where every decision leads to another two decisions, and those two decisions lead to another two decisions. And when you're prototyping, and as you're putting UI elements on the page, you put one button, you put two buttons, you're like, okay, which one should I design? Should I add an interaction with this one, and then I add another button? It's like, whack-a-mole, right? The moment I add something, I need to do something with it? No. The problem with the tooling which we have today, it makes it really easy for you to create new things. Oh, our interaction, no problem. Right-click, add our, done. So I kind of looked at this map metaphor because the following slide kind of touches on it. I just looked at this as that imagine I'm designing this roadmap, and every little intersection is like something which is a decision point in your prototype. If I'm sitting and designing each and every intersection point, my prototype will never be done. Right? And I'm under stress because my developers are hungry. They're saying, George, where is the prototype? Users have been scheduled, what are they going to do? because I have nothing to show them, because I all have this lovely network diagram of crisscross interactions and the most complex prototype ever available, and I have to maintain it too. It's very complete chaos. So I look for inspiration in something like this, which I've always been fascinated with, is this old movie set, right? And here, the dude is walking around on this path, but everything behind it is fake, right? Where the camera sees is what's real. And as prototypers, you have the unique opportunity to become his-up, right? So, kind of. You're the director, right? And they do these things because they have a story which they're actually trying to show. So what's our story? As prototypers, what do we start with? Going back to the map metaphor, right? Instead of thinking about it as all the possible roads and directions, what if it's just like a train map? This is some critical path, right? Which leads from one end to another end, and those are the ways in which I'm designing the app. So what that means is, if I'm a passenger in this train, on this train, and look out of a window, it's real. Anything beyond the horizon is fake, and that's okay. And that's the kind of prototype I want people to be able to create. So, Agile became really big, user stories became really big. I don't have one definition for what's a good user story, but the fact that you have the user stories planned out as being critical and important, that's a good thing. Because you can write it up as a business associate, and imagine I'm doing a personal finance app. As a business associate, I want to set limits for business expenses so that I'm aware of how much it takes to spend this month. It's a very clean, maybe feature-rich kind of story, but it's something meaningful for users to do. So my question, if you raise your hand, is this enough for me to start prototyping? I will find it. There's no penalty. Okay, so the majority think this is not enough. Anybody wants to make a suggestion why?
Well, this case is not enough.
Excellent.
Well, when you're prototyping, fidelity is very important. What fidelity prototype you fidelity? Anybody that this is very important? It's the
Excellent. You brought the audience back. So, she mentioned that you don't know yet because there are other stories you need to consider which would affect how the app UI or fix you need to decide to do. And this gentleman mentioned that it depends on the fidelity you need. For me, the policy has always been, it's like Bill Buxton's line, and I love it. It's always high fidelity experience using the cheapest means possible. So the idea is not whether visuals are correct or it's beautiful. It's really about, does it have all the information which the user needs to see and comprehend in order to take action. And I can do anything in pure grayscale and still get the same effect. Right? So the fidelity argument is not, we shouldn't be burdened by the idea. Okay. So to me, prototype is still a medium for simulating experience, for triggering that experience. To me, it doesn't matter, right? That I'm not even, okay, you said it's not the fidelity of the prototype. No, you said fidelity of the prototype. For me, it's always fidelity of the experience. So if I can get somebody to use the prototype accurately and go through the user story correctly, that's the best experience they can have. Perceptual, yeah, because it's the perception of the user, right? It's about how So for me, this is not enough, only because, as I said, when I started the presentation, I sometimes work with a lot of dynamic data. What that means is, for example, Indigo Studio, right? It's a busy kind of process environment. There's no content there. Content is what the user creates. Now, how do I design for that? How do I design for something which is PowerPoint? Right? How do you design PowerPoint? You need to have some ways to think it, right? And that's why I'm going to bring something which everybody knows how to do, usability testing. However, usability testing is always thought about as the next stage. Right? You have a prototype and now you're going to do usability testing. What if I flip it? What if I do the usability task first? And the way I write the usability task is interesting. And as you write the usability task yourself, you'll realize that you're telling people to do certain specific things. And you're very compact. And here, by saying change the budget for coffee to $65, I'm using that as a target for my previous user story. The previous user story looks good on the Azure backlog. It's good for planning. It's good for prioritizing. But when I'm prototyping, I have now removed a bunch of choices I need to prototype. At the same time, I'm ready for the test the moment I'm done prototyping. Now that's critical. And this kind of saving time is what helps you do design and validation here. So by saying, like, yeah, this is artificial. Like, why only copy? Because there's so many other options. How do I, should I create interactions for each of those things? And then furthermore, you can go
So I think I like that idea of you would attack so that you narrow down to what you're testing. You run the risk in a sense because you're getting specific, and that may make people pause, think the wrong thing. They get hung up, oh, why copy? And I never use copy, I never drink coffee or whatever. Don't track copy, so then it goes up. That's your scenario.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that's why I said the first time, if I have a trade-off to make. The trade-off was having personalized experiences and still being able to aggregate feedback. Right? So yeah, the person might say not copy, but they will be bad tips to that. Yes, there are certain domains where those kind of context would matter, but that's where this issue is always coming in. Even after you find out, it's still better to design a task-based approach first, instead of thinking about usability testing as something which you do later in that process. Because this is just one task. As Lily mentioned earlier, my prototype might have so many other tasks to do. I don't want to sit the whole day sitting in process for the whole week. Right? I want to be able to get something in front of the users as quickly as possible. And that kind of goes back to this, I saw this representation in Ryan Finger from Basecamp wrote about this noise block. Even before you start drawing the UI, say that you've defined that specific task. Why don't you just map out the flow in a textual format? And basically the textual format reads like, you know what prototype, right? So you just ask yourself the question, what will the user see first? What will they do? And the next one, what will they see next? What will they do? And as you're doing this, essentially what you're doing, you're also identifying the themes in that particular flow, and you can do multiple flows simultaneously. And that kind of flips, instead of thinking about idea first, you're kind of thinking flow first, and it goes back to that notion of that chain map where these things will intersect. You can start identifying, okay, wherever I come with this particular state, it's shared. And it's shared not only in the visual, it might be shared in the whole structure of it, but the content might be different for different users. It allows you to think about those intersections and themes even before you start prototyping. So this is the same example for that budget app. Even before I actually created the prototype, I'm basically saying, what do the user see first? Is this the budget items? They will select copy. So I can take this generic, select whatever, right? I can select shopping, select travel. But for the my prototype, it's a copy. And that's the trade-off I have to make. And that's exactly what it is. Design is always about that trade-off. You know, what you lose, you gain something, and in the net, you want to read the positive. Right? That's the only way we want to avoid this design parameters. And based on this flow, I can kind of go ahead and just map out that flow very quickly for that stuff. And this kind of brings me back into one of the topics of design systems. Now, sometimes I don't even have anything to extract the design system from. I'm just getting started. Now, is there some level of rigor I can apply early on so that I don't have to waste time and have still be consistent? Yes, there are some simple decisions you can make. Basically, forget color, aim for contrast. That goes back to the earlier point about, you know, it being visual and you're not relying entirely on color. Those are your decisions. So you just prototype in grayscale. It's very flexible, and most people think it looks ugly, but it will be fine. Typography, don't worry, pick one font. First, learn to use one typeface properly before you worry about type combinations. One typeface can have eight different styles there. Just figure it out, master that before you worry about the font. So once I do this kind of a flow, pretty much the moment I'm done with this flow, I'm actually ready for testing. And that kind of flexibility, it's scalable. What that means is, imagine it's not a finance app, it's like a BI tool, right? If what a BI tool does, it basically lets you, like the task is create a column chart that shows the number of movies released each year. I have to be a little bit more concrete about it because, honestly, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of options in here. It's just not possible to sit and prototype everything. However, I still want to get the learning as quickly as possible. And that's where the usability angle is also coming in, because we still want to understand that given a very clear task, we still want to write the task as if you're writing a usability study. That means you're not meeting the user, right? It has all the information it needs. And you have to make a trade-off between, does this information have to come from the user, or can I just give it to this person? There's actually so many prototypes that get hung up on creating the sign-up page. When I talk to developers, they ask, okay, what about the error conditions? What about this? That's not the app. App is not about sign-up. The app is about actually creating the text code. So we can worry about that later, right? So being very specific about certain things still gives me a wealth of information in terms of the structure, the idea, the usability, the themes. Each and every theme I have designed and this makes it very crystal clear whether we need to move ahead with it. And being able to do this quickly is critical. And it's critical because if it's going to take me too much time, then of course I'm not going to change it. If it's going to take this big monolithic prototype with so many interactions crisscross it, it's unmaintainable. Doesn't matter what tool you use. Right? So by keeping these kind of linear flows and also understanding what are the other flows which go along with it, I'm able to plan the IA as I'm doing this prototype. And this is the whole idea of what I talked about design paralysis. I want you to be able to get out with one prototype, the most complex environment you can think of, as quickly as possible. So in summary, I want to reiterate that prototyping is really about design and validation. If there's validation not happening, we're not doing prototyping. Columbia Shades, interaction design is in the business of creating scenes, and we are creating the most beautiful scenes you've ever seen. Stories of use set the context for those scenes, right? Because you can't just talk about scenes in vacuum. It doesn't make any sense. It's like talking about, I'm going to design the coolest micro interaction possible. That doesn't make sense without a larger story around it. Prototypes that are good for usability testing is also good for design review and scene review. Because you have a very clear script, there's no distraction there. Right? But hey, pause. I'm going to show you the 5 things this app is going to do as of week 1, right? Because there's also a scaled approach to developing products. When I did the video studio for 4 years, we have to build it slowly. So there's a set of stories I can do and develop it into deliver. Stories are the ones which help participants adequately suspend this belief. And I'm using the word adequately again as a trade-off. Right? It's not about, I want you to completely get this mistake. Oh, okay, I'm not going to need you to know this mistake. Because you're going to on that stuff and you're not going to do it. Right? So sometimes it's okay to sometimes walk a person through a prototype which is not related to the task so that they get a sense of, okay, I get it. This is the prototype. Right? And then transform the user story to a usability task to speed up the prototyping. Because you're trying to reduce the number of choices you have to make as you design. Because trust me, design looks great when I'm commenting on it, but when I actually have to do it, create those UIs, then there's a ton of decisions I need to make. And I would rather focus on the right themes in order to give the feeling of a seamless experience than worry about colors or anything on the top. So that's pretty much it. Questions?
Actually, I'd like to hold George's questions until afterwards, since we already had a couple.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I want to keep us a bit on track. But thank you very much. George,